Hello everyone, in our today's video, we're gonna learn everything we need to know about that Redux toolkit to create our own store. And now to implement that one, we are going to create this simple to-do application. Right now, if we just create a to-do, like create a new to-do, if we create, you can see that to-do is available here because we are using that use state hook to create an array and keep every to-do here. So like if I type another to-do, you see to-do is available. If I just type anything, that will be available, and also will be able to delete that one. But we are not going to keep in that symphony to create the to-do, because we are going to centralize the to-do to create any store. And why we need to do that, just let's figure out why actually we need to implement that Redux toolkit in our application. So to show you the idea, let's just get a little bit a drawing. First of all, what you need to do, just imagine that we are actually going to have an application, and this is our part of application. Okay, so now there is underlying our pages, so all the pages is available in the top, and now all the components, because you can feel it like you are a source component and you have the pages, you have the components. So now if I just create the pages, that can be home, that can be about, and that can be contact. Just give a little bit name of that. So first one, it will be home, second one it's about, third one contact. And now to create your component, so this component can be like, this can be header, that can be banner, and that is can be footer. That you can name any of the component, because we are creating a lots of component in our application, so many reusable component. So I will just focus with three. So I'll just get the header, and also we'll get the banner, and also get the footer. Now typically what we are actually going to do, we are passing the data as a props. Like how we are passing that, if we call that header in our home, like if we want to pass the home to our application, we are calling it in the home or in the layout, anywhere. So now what we actually can do, we can pass the data from the parents to children. When we call the header to our home, our header became the parents, became the children of our home. So now we can send the data from the home to the header. So data flow can be the downward, but we cannot be able to send data the backward, like from the header to home. No, props only can be passed using as a parent to children, and it cannot be done in other way. You can use the React context API to create a separate store, but in the Redux toolkit it's very simple. And why you need that, like if you have some user information in the header, how we can pass that? If you have the information in the home, you can pass that to your header, right? You can pass that, like if you call that banner in your home, you can pass that to your banner. If you call that footer in your home, you can pass that to your footer. But how you can pass that same user info to home to about, or home to contact? Is there any way you can pass? No, there is no way. Or you can make it in a very difficult way, what is calling the prop stealing, and which is very crucial, and it can also give so many disadvantages, and your application can be break in so many times. So actually we are not going to be making that prop stealing. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a centralized store, and that store will be created using that Redux toolkit. So that will be our store. And what actually we can do here, so that is our store. In here, like we are going to store that user info, or what we gonna make that today is the to-do list. We can store here, and also we can make that other information, whatever is that. So now what is actually happening here once we create this store? Now if that header need that user info, what it gonna do? It gonna directly go to the user info and can fetch the data. If the home need it can go to the user info and get. If the home need it can fetch from there. If the banner need it can get from there. If the contact need it can get from there. If anybody need the to-do list, it can go and take from there. So the flow, it can be go anywhere in your application. So no need to pass any unnecessary information using the prof stealing procedure. It's a simple way. Create your store and then distribute the data from this store. And how are we gonna achieve that? For achieving that one is very simple. First of all, what we need to do, we need to create the store using that reducers. Okay, so that reducers will be like the waiter giving your order. So we will just create that like add to do, delete to do, reset to do. So in that way it will work. And how we gonna fetch data? So we're gonna use that use selector and use dispatch. With the use selector, we can get the data from the store, and with the use dispatch, we can dispatch or send the data to the store. That is how simple it is. And also at the end of our video, what we actually gonna do, we're gonna use that Redux-persist to save the data in a local in the real time. Like in this application, if you just go back here, if we just reload that one, the data will be go, because we are saving the data in the real the real time, not the real time. We're just saving it in this state. So whenever we refresh, it will be go. So it will be gone. So now what we'll do, we will use the Redux-persist to create save the data in our real time. So now what you're gonna do to start and start with it from the beginning, I already created a repo here because all the design pattern, I don't want to go in that sect for today's video. So now I have one empty folder here. Okay, let me bring my folder. So this is my empty folder. Here what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna open my terminal. Let's get my terminal here, and I'm gonna make that git clone. So now I'm gonna clone overall this application here. So as you see, this application is cloned. So put ls and cd redux test. Let's open that in my code editor. It's already open. So you can either open with that code dot, or you can just go to over here in that wherever you're actually the folder lying, you can open it in your VS Code. That's the simple way you can do it. Feel free, the one you actually choose for that. So now what we have in our applications, so let's just explore a bit. So before exploring, so what I love to do is to start my terminal to install all the dependencies. So I will run that npm install. So here what we have in the source folder, we have an app directory. It's a normal Next.js application, so it can be also give a boost to you if you just new to Next.js application learning. So now in the app we have that page, so everything is rendering, the to-do from is rendering to the pages, and we have that components. Inside the components we have header, we have to-do from, and we have the to-do list. So in the to-do from, what we are doing actually, we are creating an input field where we are putting that value as a set to-do input, and then also we are passing the value as to-do input. I'll just make it a little bit bigger. Okay, to the input. So now what is happening, so we are passing all the data to the to-do list from that to-do array which we are actually creating from there. As you see, to-do array, so it's happening with the from the easy state hooks, and also the to-do list, we are showing the to-do list. So instead of doing that one in that way, we will create our store. So let's just npm run dep to start our application in the localhost 3000. Okay, so if you are cloning with me right now, because the link, it will be in the description below somewhere, and if you are just following with me, it's very easy to go and there is no bug, no error. You can feel free to just follow that and it will be just fine. Okay, don't be worried, don't be afraid, just keep the pace with me. I will just go a bit slow because I want you to understand everything you need to know. And as you see, our application is running. Let's just try new to do. Okay, we can add to do, type some random word to do, we can delete. So now that's things actually working. So now let's see how we can actually implement that Redux toolkit. If you go to their website, I love to go with that quick start. Here what it's saying, we need to install these two. One is the Redux toolkit, one is the React-Redux. So let's install that one here. And I will open another terminal. Okay. And here I'll install. Okay. And now just a bit explore about that. What actually is saying in that documentation, what you need to do, you need to create a store.js, or if you are using the TypeScript, because we are using the TypeScript, so we will create that store.ts file, not the JS. And then also you need to create that in we need to create that slicer, the slice file. So you can feel free to go to the documentation and follow up whatever you need to learn more. But if you are following me for this application, it will be just fine. So now in our source folder, I'm gonna create another folder which will give that name as Redux. So now in that Redux folder, what I will do, I will create our store. So I'll give the name as store.ts. And for the TypeScript, we need to actually get all of this. So let's get it and save. So after saving that, it will not be done yet, because as you see, what is showing, you need to import it index.js, but in our like the Next.js application, we are keeping everything in that layout, but we cannot inject that one directly in the layout because the Redux toolkit using some of the third-party libraries which is not rendering from that server side. So we need to actually implement it in a components to make it in a client side, then we can implement that one. We cannot directly inject here. So what I'm gonna do, create a new file which will be named as layout.tsx, RAFCE. Oops. Okay. So now in that layout, what we are actually going to take, we're gonna take as a one is the children, and we're gonna pass everything as from the children. The error is coming because we need to define the props. So let's interface, and the props, it will be children, and children it will be as React, and also it can be React element, and that value we will pass as the props. The error is gone. So now what we need to do, we need to import two things. We need to import that provider from that React Redux, because we actually install two things. One is the Redux toolkit, one is that React Redux. So let's pass that provider, and that provider is taking one thing which is a store, and we need to pass that store from somewhere, right? Did we create that store? Yes, we create the store. So that store we created on that Redux folder, right? So let's just open our inspect. Let's see in the Redux if we have anything. We still have nothing. So let's just go, because we now created that provider. So now what we need to do, we need to go back to our layout. So all the body overall here, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pass that in that layout. Okay, that's it. So now if we just go back here and it just make a reload, as you see, the error is coming because in our layout, remember, store like the Redux toolkit using so many third-party libraries which is not familiar with that server-side rendering. So what you need to do, we need to make that as the client's library. So to do that, we'll just put that as client. So when you do that use client, error will be go and everything gonna be fine. As you see the type in it, so now we'll be able to create our action. So also, if we go to the console, I think you're gonna find the error store does not have a valid reducer. So we need to create the reducer. And how are we gonna create that? just simply open another file, and you can give the name as a to do slice dot ts, not the tsx, it will be ts, remember that one. And now what you need to do, we need to import create slice from that Redux toolkit. And here what you need to do also, we need to pass one initial value, so it will be to do like not that, actually it will be initial state, and it will be by default the first one. Actually it actually go to on that yeah, it will be inside an object. So and here I'm gonna give a name of the to-do list, which will be an empty array. That would be in initial state an empty array, the to-do list. And how we can create that, the slice, now we're gonna just create that simply on that export the const, and we need to give the name, which actually will give that as a to-do slice. And then we need to create the slice, and in the create slice it will take an object with that initial argument, and we need to pass that name, and we will just give the name as to do. And then we need to pass the value of the initial state. Initially it will be an empty array, and then we need to create the reducers. So let's create our first reducer, which will be add to do, and that add to do will take two arguments. One will be state, another will be action. So now how it's gonna actually work, so whenever we're gonna call that, it will go through the state and the to-do list. And then what actually it gonna do, it's gonna take action dot payload. So whatever we're gonna pass from that action, it's gonna take, and whatever the payload we're gonna pass, it's gonna inject with that to-do list. Okay, so like if we want to pass an object, we can just call that add to do, and we will pass all the variables to that object, and then it will just inject that one inside that array. So now we created that our to-do slice, and how we actually interact with that. And to do that, we need to export it. So export const, and the first one is add to do, and that will be from that to do slice dot actions. That's coming from the actions. And also we need to make a default export, which will be to do slice dot reducer. So now we have that to export the thing. So now we need to connect this slice with our store. And how are we gonna connect that? It's very simple. We need to just make an import. So import to do reducer, and that one be from to do slice. And as we import in that reducer, we need to pass the name we have been given, so it will be to do. Remember, try to give the same name as you gave previously, because whenever we're gonna fetch that data using the use selector hook, we need to give that name. So if you put the different name, by the way, it can be changes, you can use the different name, but what I love to use the same name. So we'll just pass that to the reducer. So now if we just go back to our Redux, go back to our action. Okay, let's go back to state action, nothing is coming. Just give a reload. Sometimes it just waiting for the reload. Okay, see, in this state we have one state which we have that to-do list. So now how we actually can implement that one in our application. So let's go to our to-do from. As you see, nothing is happening from the to-do from, or from the to-do from. Let's see. Yeah, there is add to do. So save to do is, we are calling that function. So as you see, the save to do, and from here actually we are dragging that one to the array. So let's get our dispatch, because we need to use the dispatch to send data to our store. So const this dispatch, we're gonna call it from that use dispatch. Okay, it's not coming. Let's import it manually, and it will be import use dispatch. It will be from not equal, it will be from React-Redux. Yes. So now whenever you see, we are getting that variable, we are passing that variable using as a set to do inside the to do array using the use_stat hook. But we are not going to do it. We will send that to our store. How we can do that? After setting that data, we will call that dispatch function, and we will make that add to do. As you see, I am importing that one everything. Don't forget to import, otherwise it will not work. So inside that add to do, I can directly inject that variable which we are making as new to do. But what I love to do, I love to create an object and then pass the variable. So that object I will pass an ID. So it will be, because why we need an ID? Because whenever we're gonna delete the to do, we will use that ID to just mapping through that or filter through it. So we need an ID for that. So I'll just create a mat.random ID, and then okay, and then also we're gonna pass that as the text value. So whatever the to do value is, that we're gonna pass that the to do input, and that to do input is coming from here. As you can maybe remember that one, whatever we are putting in the input field, so it will just giving the set input with that, and then to do input is coming from there. So now actually we can get that. So let's go and initialize one to do. So and try to just make a reload, because you see by default Next.js is getting so many caching data, it can be a problem, otherwise it will be fine. So this is the this is the this to do. So we add to do, and as you see, we are having one to do in our application, which is having an ID and also having a text. The same to do is coming, and if we type that another to do, but as you see, it's replacing our previous to do. But we should not replace, we should push the to do to a new to do, right? And to implement that one, let's go to our to do slices, and here we're gonna pass a condition. To do that, we're gonna make that existing to do, we're gonna find the existing to do. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just go back to my state, and from that state we'll pass the to-do list, and we will find. And how we're gonna find, we're gonna take that value as a item, and from that item what we actually going to find, item.id equal to action.payload.id. So it will find through the ID. So now the error is coming from that, because it don't know what's the ID and what's the other things. And to implement that one, let's just create an interface, and I'll give that name as to do, and that to do will contain one ID, which will be a number, and also one text, which will be string. As for the TypeScript, if you are new to TypeScript, just get a little bit to know about and read about the TypeScript. But for this application, just follow me, it will be just fine. And also one interface, another more, which will be for the to-do state, and that to-do state will which contain of the to-do list, and that to-do list will contain that to-do, and it will be array of to do. So in the initial state, what we need to actually mention is that it will be contain everything from that to do state. So everything is fine now. So now we are having one existing to do. So now what it's gonna do, whenever it will find a to do here, we're gonna create a to do here, then it's gonna giving a conditional rendering. So if it's finding an existing to do, what it gonna do? It gonna do is that state dot to do list. Okay, if there is an existing to do, it will give that action dot payload. So the same way we are passing here, that's the same thing it gonna do whenever there is an existing to do is there. Okay, I think it's and or it's gonna be working in that way. Let's just go with that. If we have that existing to do, if there is a to do available, so the state dot to do list, it will not be in that way, because if there is a to do, so what actually it gonna do, it will not replace the to do, it gonna push the to do to there. So it state dot to do list dot push action dot payload. So whatever the payload we are giving, it will inject there. And now if there is no to do, the first one, so if there is no to do, what it gonna do, it gonna just pass that whatever we are passing in a payload, it gonna pass it there. So just make a reload, and let's see if it's working or not. If it's not work, we'll try again. So I'll just make some random text. Okay, our first to do is added. Let's add another one. Okay, Okay, no, it's not working. So I think the conditional rendering, it will be the first one, it will be go down, and the second one. So if there is an existing to do, it gonna just, yeah, it gonna make that action.payload. If there is no existing to do, then it gonna keep that, push that with that action.payload. So let's see right now, and I think it's gonna work. So our first to do is added. Let's just make some another thing. Okay, our second to do is added. So now if we add more to do, you can put any text. I'm just getting with a random. So now it's working. So now if we click on that delete button, it's deleting from some other way. So now we need to actually initialize that one here. But right now, as you see, we have the to-do list. The to-do is available here. So let's go back to our application. And in that to-do list, as you see, we are rendering that to-do list because in that, okay, let's close the other things. Okay, close others, and in the to-do from, we are calling that to-do list and we are passing that item, like from the item from the to-do array. So we are not gonna do that. We're gonna inject that data from our store. So how we can do that? Remember, use selector hook. So now we're gonna make that const to-dos, and it will be coming from use selector, and that gonna get state. So just import that one, import use selector from React-Redux. Okay, I think I made the mistake with the name. Okay, fine. And for right now, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just put that state as any. We know the to-do will only appear. So now we're gonna make a log and let's see what we are getting inside that to-dos. So if we go to the console, so you see everything is just removed because it will be removed because later on we're gonna save that in that local storage. So let's see. Okay, state use selector, not the selector, it will be selector, it's my bad. Okay, okay, so okay, so now as you see, we are getting a state. From this state we are getting the to do and other things. So now from the state, what we need to implement from the state, we need to get the to do. Remember, we give the name as a to do, and then we need to pass that to do list. And after doing that, we are going to able to get that fresh value. So now if we just put one more, and as you see, we are having two to dos. So the to dos is pretty much available here and is working much fine. So let's add more to dos. We have 3 to dos. So now this to do actually we can mapping here and we can render here. So now we have the to do's value. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna map it here. So let's just remove all, and I'm gonna take a div, and what I'm gonna make that not to do's dot map item, and I'm gonna return it here. Okay, as you see, it's giving me the several value, not the 3 but so many. It's because you see the to do from over here, actually we are rendering that one here with a different value. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna remove everything, and then I'm gonna get that to do list here directly. I'm gonna inject here. That's it. And after injecting, we're getting the 3 value and 2. Okay, let me get little bit bigger, so smaller, so that we can see the side by side. Okay, and I'm gonna remove that. Okay, so now it looks okay. So now we are having the to-do list here. So this to-do list actually we are injecting here from there. So now let's just remove that with the props. What I'm gonna do, it's gonna take just ID as the number, and that text it will be from that string. And also we no need that item. Okay, and also on delete we are not going to implement here, and also we'll remove that props property. And on delete we are not using that because we're gonna create that our use dispatch hook to create that delete functionality, and that item will contain that as the props. So now we can see we have a 3 value, so let's just make that class name and empty. It will be 10 just to give the gapping. So now we can see the value of to do. If we just remove that, it's gonna go, of course. But if we add some to do or some another random text, as you see, to do is available, but this to do is not coming from the local store like the use state, which we have been doing earlier. So we are not gonna do it again. So let's just remove the to do array and everything, and also we'll remove that. You see how simple that to implement that. So that's it, and we are good to go. So we have a clean slate with having this store. So now as we implement this portion, what we are going to do, let's create another function and formulate it which can be related to, because right now if we delete to do, it will not work because we have no slice to do that. So to implement that one, we need to create another slice. Let's go to the to-do slice. And now here, after that add to do, what we're gonna do, we're gonna make that delete to do, and that delete to do also it gonna take that state and also that action as the parameter. And now what we need to do, we need to filter that to do according to the ID it has going to given. So we're gonna pass that state dot to do list, and because we need to modify the to-do list. So how the to-do list will appear after the delete to-do function going to be run. So now it's gonna be like state dot to-do list and dot filter. Oops, it will, because we need to filter with that. And how we gonna filter, we will get that everything in an item, so we'll get all the to-dos available there. And now item dot id, it will be not equal to action dot payload. So what actually is going to give us, it's gonna remove whatever the ID we are passing through that action.payload. It's gonna go and match with the ID and it will filter that through it. So, and also we need to pass that to do here as that delete to do, and also we will pass another to do available for that, which gonna be as that reset to do, and that one will take only one parameter, which will be state. Oops, it will be state, and here it will be make that state dot to do list. It will just focus on that to create an empty to do, so all the to dos it will remove. So reset to do. So now we have our 3 to dos. Let's go back to our to do list. Remember there is an empty gap is coming, which is margin 10, and to remove that one, what actually we can do, let's put that inside a curly braces, and here we're gonna pass a condition. So if to dos dot, I think length, it will be length is bigger than 0, and only then it gonna render here. So and as you see, that empty things is just removed. So let's just create it to do with the random text. Okay, that looks fine. And now we will initialize our delete to the functionality. And to initialize, first foremost, we need to get the dispatch. So const dispatch, and it's gonna call that from that use dispatch hook dispatch. And also we need to import from our React-Redux, so use dispatch. Now we will dispatch one action here. So whenever we click on that trash icon to delete icon, what's gonna do, so let's just create an on click event. So here with that on click event, we're gonna make that dispatch, and it will be delete to do. As you see, it's imported at the top, so don't forget to import, otherwise it will not work. So now in the delete to do, we need to pass an ID, and that ID it will be item.id. That's it. So now if we click any of the to do, as you see, it just gone. So now we need to create another one, which will be the receipt value. So if there is more than one to do, that receipt button should appear. So let's go and implement that one. So how we are actually going to do? So as you see below that portion, what I am going to do, I'm gonna write another condition, which gonna be to do. I think it will be to do's dot. I think it will also go with the length. If it's bigger than one, only then it gonna render a div. Okay, and inside that div we're gonna have a button which will say us to that remove all. So as you see, that's already appear. And in the class name for that div, I'm gonna give that width of full, and I'm gonna make it as a flex item center justify and empty of 4 for the making it margin top. So it will see this appearing in the other part. So for the button, what I'm gonna do, create a bit of nicer way which is happening with the add to do. Give a class name, and it will be the bg slit of 950. Text as extra small, and we're gonna make it as uppercase. Padding x is 5, padding y as, let's give it a try 2, and font it will be medium. Okay, it will be medium, and also rounded MD, and text color it will be slate 200, and whenever we're gonna hover the text it will be red 600, and also duration it will be 200. Just a simple color combination. Okay, padding y is not taking, and why is happening? Okay, we give already the p padding in y-axis, but it's not taking. Okay, let's try again. It was taken, it has taken, but okay, let's just give again. So padding y it will be 2. Okay, 2. So it's working. If we hover, it's getting the red. So now what the action it gonna create? So whenever we gonna make as that on click event, we're gonna fire a dispatch event, and that dispatch it gonna make that receipt to do. That's simple. So we no need to pass anything. So we click and it will just make everything disappear from there. Okay, so as you see, we can add to do, we can just do it as simply. We can as you see, if one to do is available, the receipt button which will not be there. So now it's a remove to do. So add more to do, because right now you're gonna see why actually we are using, because the same functionality we can create using that state and other things, but why we need that state? So remember, we have one view all to dos tab. If we click that, it will take us to that localhost 3004/all to do. Remember that page is not available because we didn't create. So let's just create with that. Let's create one folder. We're gonna give a name all to do. It's very simple to create that page in that Next.js application. We just need to simply write that page.tsx in that folder, RAFCE. So it will be all to do. Okay, just save it, and as you see, that is already available here. And right now what actually I'm gonna do, because that from that layout we are getting that as the header and other things, so also I'm gonna pass some class name. So bg slit 950, and the text slit it's gonna give us 200. So as you see, that looks clean. So now to just implement something over here, I'm gonna create another component. That component name I'm gonna give that all to dos.tsx RAFCE, because I don't want to inject anything, because that can be client side or other things. So always better to inject in that component level and can create the reusable component. I have lots of videos where I show how you can actually go with that foremost reusable component, so I don't want to make it more complicated by explaining those things. So now we have that all to-dos folder here, so let's just go to the all to-dos. Here we're gonna pass all the to-dos available here. So now remember, I'm gonna just close others. Okay, remember we are having everything in that to-do list, right? So that's the things we need to show there. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just copy from here. That's it. So let's just copy here, and we need to import so many things. We need to get the to-dos first, and that to-dos coming up from our store. So that's the same thing we need to implement here. And also we need to have so many import state, so also we're gonna import here. And after doing, remember, because we are using that motion and other things, so okay, let's import the motion from framer motion. And what we need to do, actually we need to create it also as use client, otherwise it will not, it will freak out. So use client, and we need to make that props, that interface the props, or we can pass as to dos. It depends on you, because it's better to pass that as to do. So let's pass that as to do. Okay, we need that trash icon. Let's import that icon. Okay, import it. If we save that one, we'll be able to see something. Okay, nothing is coming here. Let's go again. Okay, let's create some to do. Okay, 1 2. Okay, to do is created. Let's go inside. This to do is available here, okay, but we can't see actually. Okay, this is the extra additional. So why actually we cannot see in a proper way? So remember, we are having a lots of designing parameter. So what I'm gonna do, instead of rendering here, I'm gonna render that inside a container. Okay, so container. Okay, so that's my container. Okay, I'm not gonna do that. So what I'm gonna do, okay, so instead of putting that container here, I'm gonna pass that. Okay, this everything actually I can pass that inside the container. Okay, so now give a class name. Oops, class name, the padding y-axis, it will be 10. Okay, so no to do available, so let's go back, add some to do. Don't worry, we're gonna okay, it's just giving. Okay, don't worry about it, we're gonna save it in our real time. That time it will not need to go with the refresh things. So let's view to dos. This to do is available here. So now let's go back and give some more designing pattern here. So what I'm gonna do, okay, so now here I'm gonna give a max width and height to implement that. So give a max width of 2 pixel and mx auto. bj it will be white, the background white, and the text it will be slate 950. Okay, slate 950, and padding in y-axis it gonna be 10, px will be 6, rounded md, and also shadow it will be lg, the large shadow, and the shadow it will be slate 400. Oops, not the sky, it will be slate 400. So as you see, we're having our to do. So now let's remove all and other things. It's just going the mismatching with that. So what actually we can do to make it in a good way, let's just let me think with that, how we can put that inside on that parameter. So what we need to do, we need to also pass another parameter which actually going to say this is the all to do and some other things. Let's get a p tag which will say us all to dos. All to dos. So you see all to dos is available. Let's give some class name, and that class name it will be text, make it LG, and also font it gonna be semi bold and MB off, margin bottom of 5. So all that remove button should be appear here, and to do that let's just cut it and inject inside that div. I think it's gonna work. Yeah, that's fine. We can also delete from here, remove the to-dos here. So after removing, we should pass a message, right? And then what we can do actually, let's go in the overall in the top section. Remember here. So what we are going to do instead of an end, so if there is a to-do length is available, then it's gonna pass something, and if the to-do length is not available, then it gonna render up something. So if not available, it gonna pass a div. Okay, inside the div, what it gonna pass, it gonna pass a p tag which gonna say us no to dos available, and then we're gonna pass also a link variable which gonna make us that add to do, which will take us to the home page to add more to do. So hurry, it's gonna take us to the home page. So this two is available. Let's put some styling over there, class name flex, and the flex in the column, and item center padding y it gonna give us 10, and the gap in y it gonna 2. Okay, that looks fine. Now you can make some designing parameter the way you like, or I'm just gonna keep it as simple. So now we can add to do. As you see, we can add to do, add more to do. Okay, we can remove the to do. So now after removing, also we need to pass a message that we remove the to do, right? So we are not passing any message right now. So this is our to do, not the out, it will be our to do. And also you can see there is an icon available which can cut all the text you have written here. So now let's add some more to do to interact with that. This is our first to do, and to do is working just fine. So now once we click on that remove all, after removing all the to-dos, it should also pass a message. So let's go back to our add remove all tag. You see, after having the dispatch. So now what actually we implemented, let's just go to that to the form. I think we imported that toast and toaster from that React hot toast. So also I'm gonna import that here because I want to show a message that all to-dos is removed properly or successfully. So let's import that. Okay, just keep it anywhere. So now after removing all the to-dos, it should pass a message. Oh, it's coming in the all to-dos. So we are in the page of all to-dos. So what it gonna give the message after removing receding all the to-dos, it also gonna end and that toast.success all to-dos. Oops, it's gonna be inside an string to-dos remove successfully. And oops, there is another mistake, I believe. So we need to cut that. Okay, not here. We need to inject it here. Okay. So after passing that, like remove all to do, as you see, all to-dos remove successfully. And for this portion, I'm not adding. You can add it by yourself and just show the let's give the message here. So now we need to save that in the real time, because if we reload, it just removing, right? So to do that, let's just search for something called that Redux-persist. So Redux-persist. So these are the things we need to working with that. So first of all, let's install that one. So this is a separate library. So let's go and import that one. npm I will take the Redux-persist. So now implementing is very simple. Everything gonna be stick with the store and other the layout portion. So what we need to do, we need to import this too, because we already used that configure store here. Okay, we import that, and after that, this for the app, the root reducer not required, so we need to import this too. Okay, and instead of the root reducer, we will pass that our to-do reducer. That's simple. And now here we are giving that our configure store. So inside that configure store, I'll just implement that, and that persist reducer, it gonna get us from that as the name of to do. That's it. So we'll give the name as to do, and then it gonna just fetch with that persist reducer whatever we are going to implement. And also we need to copy this portion and this portion, because the persister we need to like use it in other files, so we'll just simply export that one. So initialization is done. After that, what we need to do actually, where we call that provider, we need to get that persist get. So let's copy that persist get, and now let's go to the layout. Actually here we implement that, and after defining that store, let's cut that and get that persist get, and that persist get is getting another props, which is persister, and that persister, it's gonna be coming from that our persister, which is inside that Redux store. Pretty much everything, all things set. And if we just come back here and in the console, as you see, so let's add a new to do for test. Okay, I think something is wrong. Making each child a list to the unique key props. Remember, we are actually calling that to do in somewhere in all to dos. We didn't pass a key. Remember that to do dot map we are running. So we need to give a key, and that it will be item dot ID. So whenever you're gonna mapping through it, you need to give a ID with that. So to do list, did we give that one here? No, we didn't give. So let's give a key, which will be item dot ID. That's it. I think it will go. Oops, another to do. Okay, so now let's hit reload, and as you see, okay, something is up. Okay, we are getting lots of error, so just let's go fix it out, that one. We can do one thing for just to implement that. Let's just close the terminal, because we implemented that storage thing. So again, npm run dev, because so many things Next.js is keeping in that caching data. It can be an effective problem or cannot be, so it's better to just restart the server. And now if we have the problem, we are going to debug it, and then we're gonna find the issue to implement that. And I think I find the error in a way, because we are doing everything in a right way. Let's go to our layout, and as you see, we are actually passing all the body, so we cannot save anything outside the body. So what we need to do, we need to pass all the layout inside our body, and of course it's gonna render a single child. So I'm gonna put everything inside a div. That's it. So now I think we're gonna get our state. Let's just have a reload on that, and as you see, we're having our to do. So let's remove the to do. To do is gone. Add to do. Okay, we're having to do. Add more to do, and just hit the refresh, and see, to do is available in the all to dos. Also, I believe the to do, it will be available. So that's pretty much good. So we can remove the to do also. So now this is the way you can implement. Just be sure that everything like your layout file is inside that body tag, or whenever you are going to use that persistor, everything should be inside the body. That's it. So I think that is pretty much all, and you have a good understanding about how that reducer work and how that Redux toolkit is work. If you have any question, just let me know in the comments below, and I will just go back to with you to have some other session and to let you understand. So I think it's gonna help you to build in your future. So we'll see you next video.